One of the things that a lot of people talk about in college, and especially if you're in the STEM area, is resumes. And for good reason too, because if you're in the STEM field or just college in general, you're usually looking for internships either over the summer or even during the school year. And having a good resume is pretty much a necessity. And as a computer science major who does want to go into industry in the future, that applied to me as well. But how do you make a resume in college? Especially for people like me who never really had any prior experience, especially in the CS field going into college. What do I even put on there? Those were all questions that I asked myself, when I first came into college. And instead of trying to, give you guys some sort of tips and tricks to writing resumes, I think it'd be better just to show you guys what I wrote. So in today's video, I'm going to share my freshman, my sophomore, and my junior resume, because as for me, I learn better with examples. Now, just a heads up, I'm by no means saying that these resumes are the epitome of resumes and that you should follow them to the T. I'm sure that if you had some sort of resume advisor, kind of critique my resumes, then they probably have a lot to say about it. Despite all that, I am proud of what I've written, I'm proud of the resumes that I've made, so I think it'd be useful, just to share these with you guys. And so without further ado, let's start with my freshman resume. Alright, so making a freshman resume, in my opinion, compared to either as a sophomore, as a junior, or even as a senior, is probably the hardest. And primarily because you're just starting out, so you really don't know what to put on there that may be different from your high school resume. And again, that applied to me as well, and you'll see in this upcoming resume that a lot of it is just kind of copy-pasted from my high school resume. But that's okay. And recruiters, they know you're a freshman, they know that you don't have too much time to gain experience as you've only done either 1 or 2 semesters. So they understand that. Now, let's look at the first part, which is education. That's pretty simple. I just put in my schools. I'm going to Rice University. I went to Kappa High School, and GPA there, class rank there. Any type of national merit stuff, distinguishments you can put on there as well. Next is related coursework. And related coursework isn't something that you always see on resumes, but for me, I thought it'd be nice to put on there. And the people I've talked to, they say they really like it there. They really like to see what type of classes you've taken and what kind of experiences you have, even if it's not on the field. And so for that, I just put in computational thinking, which is my introductory comp class, and then some math classes that I also took because they are tangential to computer science. Moving on to experience, I only put one on there, which was my internship during my high school years. So moving on is leadership, and for this again, since I did make this during my freshman year, I didn't really have any leadership positions to put on there that was college related, so I put in the leadership positions I had during my high school years, which was, as a co-founder and president of the Alzheimer's Student Association and a logistics manager for this tutoring club that I was a part of. Next up is activities. And so activities was a bit more robust, just because, I did try to go out there and find things to do when I first came on campus, when I first was discovering what there was to do at Rice. And so first thing is Rice Apps, which for those that go to Rice or for those that have researched a little bit at Rice, probably know that it's a computer science related club dedicated towards, building applications, and it's more like hands-on things. You get projects and then you work with a team to build it out over the semester. And so that's what I did there. I ended up making a carpooling app for Rice students, which honestly was a lot of fun and was really successful. Next up is a datathon, actually, that me and some of my friends won. That was a lot of fun. Got first place there, which I think really boosted my resume. A lot of recruiters asked about this whenever I showed this to them. And then the other stuff, just skimming through the computer science club, that's kind of typical. If you're a CS student, you probably want to join that. And then the rest is just high school things, concert band, marching band, and then I did play piano for quite a while. Finally, the last part is skills. And in skills, I just put my languages. I am bilingual, and so I do speak both English and broken Chinese, but I put it on there anyways. Since I was looking for computer science jobs, I did put in the languages that I was capable of knowing and that I was still learning, but still put it on there anyways. So, Python, HTML, CSS. Mean stack stands for MongoDB, Express, Angular, and Node.js. It's kind of just a complete stack, and that was for building my carpool app. And yeah, I kind of ran out of things to put, so I just put in the Microsoft stuff. Probably people don't care about that, but I did put it on there anyway just to kind of fill out the rest of the line. That leads to the question of where did this resume actually lead me to? I gave this out to recruiters. What happened after that? Well, If you've actually seen my day in the life video, well, the first one of my software engineering internship, then you would know that I went to OpenStax. They're a nonprofit company that runs kind of like an online textbook system, which allows students from everywhere around the globe to access textbooks for free. And it was super fun. I won't go into detail about that because I have a whole video detailing, kind of what I did during the time. And if you are interested, I'll link it in the iCard above and in the description below. So be sure to check that out if you are, curious. That's my freshman resume. It led me to an internship at OpenStax. And moving on to my sophomore resume. So let's take a look at that. So things got a lot more interesting during my sophomore year. As you can see, I completely revamped how my resume looked. It looks a lot cleaner in my opinion, a lot less cluttered, and honestly at around this time is when you can start thinking about removing those high school things and putting in things that are more pertinent to the job or internship that you're applying for. So just to be clear, this was not something I designed myself. This was a template that I found online, and there are plenty of awesome, really good looking templates. But if you do like this one, it's called Awesome CV, and again, I'll link it in the description below if you do want to use this kind of template out. But yeah, let's go through this one. So, education, same thing again, Rice University and then my high school. And then related coursework, kind of the same thing, but I did add more classes, seeing that I did take more CS classes, I did take more math classes. That's just something you just keep adding on as you go through college and you take more classes. The experience section, however, is a lot different. As you can see, I completely removed, all the stuff that was related to my high school. And that's because I really wanted to focus in and tell recruiters that, I have a lot of experience and I'm really skilled in, CS specific things, especially if I was applying to CS jobs. And so, first thing on the list is my internship from the summer before, my OpenStax internship. You can read a little bit more about that. Basically, I was a software test engineer at OpenStax. Again, I won't go into too much detail about that. You can see it in my day in the life video. So moving on to the next one is two projects that I worked on in my comp class. And so this was a parts-to-speech tagging machine and another one called bacterial transmission elucidation. It sounds fancy because I wanted the recruiters to think I did fancy things. Honestly, in retrospect, the projects weren't as fancy as I made them sound, but this is a resume. You are kind of supposed to hype yourself up, and recruiters know that. Everyone knows that. It's just part of the culture of writing resumes. So one thing I would say for you to take away is definitely don't be shy about kind of bragging about yourself. This is the place where you're supposed to brag about yourself. Everyone is expecting that. For activities, again, I continued doing my Rice Apps club, and then I also put in the Datathon just because that was such a big deal that a lot of recruiters did talk about. Finally, the skills section. I revamped the skills section a bit. I added another section called technology, and I just kind of expanded it, which as you can see here, there's a lot more stuff and abilities, and I got rid of the Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel stuff. I replaced it with things that were actually more relevant to CS internships. Languages, same thing, English, Chinese. And then technology, I just put in all the technology stacks that I've been using either in class or for side projects. That was my sophomore resume. So again, that leads to the question of where did this resume lead me to? Well, given that I had experience now in the field, I did have a previous internship, that led to a lot more opportunities, and a lot more recruiters gave me the chance to go in for the in-person interview and really show my abilities to them in person. So eventually I got a couple offers at the end of the recruiting season, and the one that I did finally accept was an offer by Shell to be a software engineer for them. I was actually planning on making a day in the life for that one as well, one for OpenStax, and then I wanted to make another one for Shell, but then the pandemic hit and everything went online, and so there's only so much you can show with an online internship. Basically, I wake up, I sit at my computer, I go to meetings, and I code. I didn't really want to make a video just about that. I didn't think it would be too interesting. And that was why instead of making kind of a Shell day in the life, I made what I call day in the life at Zoom University. And I really played on that whole trend of Zoom University stuff when it was big. But yeah, during that time was when I was interning at Shell. Anyways, working at Shell, I did gain a lot of industry experience that I'm really, really grateful for, a lot of great connections. I'm definitely grateful to have the opportunity to be there. So with that being said, that was my sophomore resume, and that's where it led me to. Finally, we'll take a look at the junior resume. This one will be pretty quick because the junior resume isn't that much different from my sophomore resume. I just pretty much updated all the information with another year of experience. But we can go through it anyways. So again, education, same thing, updated GPAs. Related coursework, same thing, updated classes. Now the experience is the one big difference, and the reason for that was because I gained, again, more pertinent experience that I could put at the forefront of my resume. From the recruiters that I've talked to, they say they do want to see, internships, they do want to see hands-on experience, and so that's what I put on there. Again, number one is Shell, which was my internship during the summer before, and then OpenStax as well, my internships 2 summers ago. But then you'll notice I put in another thing called A440. And if you've been watching my videos recently, I did talk a little bit about A440. And what it is a startup that me and a couple of my friends started. It started during my sophomore year, but I didn't really put it on my resume because it was relatively new. We were just starting out and there wasn't much to show. But at this point, we kind of developed an entire site that was gaining traction, and we're really moving forward with the startup. And so that's when I decided to put it on there. That honestly has been the thing that I've been working on, this semester and last semester the most. And so yeah, here's my experience for activities. Because of the pandemic, there wasn't really much I could do. For all the clubs, when they moved online, I didn't really take too much interest in exploring more opportunities just because they were online and I was at home half the time, and then I come back here and I'm not on campus most of the time. And so again, it's just the same thing as before, the Rice Apps Club and the Datathon. Finally, you see in my skills section, just updated that a bit more. I kind of pared it down to the things that I was most comfortable with, instead of just listing a whole bunch of stuff that, half I was still learning, half I knew. I decided to really dig in and say, these are the things that I'm most comfortable with. These are the things that I have the most experience with. That was my junior resume. And finally, where did this resume lead me to? Well, if you watched my last video, then you might have seen that I talked about Capital One. That's where I'll be heading this summer. It is online again, so I'll be going back home and doing an online internship. What can you do? I'm still very grateful for the opportunity, and just a quick side note, I do think academically, junior year is probably the hardest, primarily because junior year is the time when you have the hardest classes. Senior year, sure, but you kind of have senioritis, so you don't really care. Junior year is, in my opinion, the hardest, both for college, and it was definitely the hardest for me in high school. And so I was really glad I was able to find this internship really quickly, so that I felt really comfortable with my future, my summer, and then I could focus more on the classes. If there is anything to take away from this one, then I will say to start early, apply early. It'll pay big dividends down the line. All right. So those were the resumes that I had during my freshman, my sophomore, and during my junior year. Now, some of y'all may be wondering, what kind of resources I used to make these resumes. And well, the main resource I used was actually my university's career development office. They held resume workshops here and there. I went to them, I asked them questions, I showed them my rough drafts of resumes, and they gave really good feedback. I mean, their job is to review resumes. And so for those of you who, go to university and have that opportunity, have those career development offices, I would highly, highly recommend going to them and really utilizing them to your benefit. And if not, I'm sure there are plenty of really good resources online. Since I've really never used those kinds of resources, I don't really have much in terms of things that I can recommend myself. But I do know plenty of people who have, just Google searched how to make a good resume, and they have really good resumes. And so I'm sure you'll be able to find them if you just look for it online. Now, with that being said, if you do have any questions about resumes, about colleges, or just even about life in general, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I love answering them, I love reading them. So definitely reach out if you have any questions. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I want to wish every one of you guys a safe semester, a safe year. And yeah, with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.